This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is a week in review of August 14th, 2021. And it's officially spooky season. I'm reading Phil's script. I would never say spooky season at all, ever. First Boo Bashes are being held. Full details are in a lot of news reportings. Getting some interesting reviews, Phil. We'll go into it a little bit later during the news. Halloween Horror Nights are being announced, or full details are being revealed. Yep. Excuse me. We just have a guest, also Kristy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Very good. I think we're gonna have fun. So Kristy is going to be our DBC expedition this week. She's going to talk about our trip report. Should be really fun. We're going to find out a little bit more about that. But first, before we get into the news, let's take a look at the Disney Comeback Index. I should probably have this loaded up already. My timing's awful. Apologize to the people out there. So, Phil, we've got a 68.48%.
Yes.
So we got a bit of a good boost here. Let's see if we got some updates that we can see on screen from our friend Matt Petto, who was on the show last week. Beauty and the Beast live on stage is back with a different ending, a socially distanced ending. Slight penalty for I guess the modifications. I don't know why he gave a penalty. I mean, I guess
because it's still impacted by COVID. That's why it's not the regular show. But I think it's close.
What if he never change? What if he never change it? Right, but it's back.
Yes,
I think he's being he's being a literalist. Is that a term for it? I mean, are we going to play lawyers here or something? The Boneyard's partially back, and the very Merriest boost, which did a lot of work for the score too. So that's pretty cool. So with that being said, Phil, any comments on DCI? Any surprises? I think my surprises were still stuck in the 60s. I don't see a ramp up into the 70s for some time.
I mean, we're closing in on the 70s. I think if the meet and greets come back, that's probably the big thing that would.
Yes.
Because that's probably going to be a whole bunch all at once, would jump it up. So until that happens, you're probably not going to see a big jump. But it's good to see the move forward. I didn't know the Boneyard was going to be coming back so soon. That was kind of a nice little surprise. So. It's a surprise. I thought it would have come back a little bit earlier. Kristy, have you ever followed the DCI? Do you know what that is?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'll just let you guys go.
No, it's we have a friend of the show, Matt, who basically made a giant spreadsheet, and he put like scores and weights behind different aspects that were closed during the pandemic, and as they all open up, there's a score based on a lot of fun math in a spreadsheet that says whether or not Disney's, what percentage are they back to 2019 times. So
probably I don't follow it. I don't do math.
I'm a bit of a numbers nerd, so we kind of dig it on here.
I was told there would be no math.
Well, luckily you don't have to do anything with it. All right, Phil, why don't you head over to the news a little bit?
Yeah, so Jason touched on things a little bit about the spooky season, which I put in there, which I think is just fun. But some of the big news, I'm going to kick off with the Universal news. I know that we don't cover that as much, but as Kristy will be covering her trip to Universal, I thought I would start there, in that Universal announced all the remaining houses and shows and scare zones and stuff like that for Halloween Horror Nights, which I know a lot of people are very much looking forward to, especially after it didn't really happen last year. So some of these houses, I think some of the original ones sound pretty darn creepy to me. So I think the Puppet Theater one is the one that would make me the most nervous. But I thought it was just really interesting to see that all come out, and a lot of people are really excited about it. I think for people that really want to hear professionals' take on Halloween Horror Nights, I would suggest listening to some of our previous DBC recommends, such as the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. They will go into detail of all the houses. And I know Thrill Geek did a special recording today to go through all the houses. So check that out.
Both podcasts are very professionally put together. I enjoy listening to them. So it's not like us. We're just two dudes just like talking to a mic where we're like, we don't know what we're doing. These people know what they're doing. They put together a pretty good product.
And the only other thing I'd say, there was a rumor going around that obviously we know with Universal, they haven't been mandating masks like at Disney started to do for indoors. So they're not, presumably not going to be doing it for Halloween Horror Nights. So there is a rumor they'll be bringing back the plexiglass that they had to use last year. So there'd be the plexiglass between the scare actors and the guests and stuff like that. And people were bummed about hearing that. I think there was even like a petition up to stop that for a little bit, but just kind of, I guess, the reality we live in. But just for you, those of you going down it, that might be something you have to deal with.
Kristy, I'm going to ask you to get a little bit closer to the mic if you can. You're getting out a little bit more, but what are your ideas on plexiglass? Phil and I talked about this before. I don't know if it actually does anything, but
I'm not sure that it does either. But I mean, I guess if you're in a contained space and people are screaming, that probably would be, why that they would want some kind of barrier. So it makes sense, but I can see where that would take away from the experience overall.
How about everybody just wear a mask?
Yeah.
You don't have to put up plexiglass. How about that? I don't know.
We'll see. So
just thinking.
But moving over to Walt Disney World and their holiday offerings, firstly for Halloween, their first Boo Bash started. The first one was held this past Tuesday, August 10th, because I guess Halloween starts on August 10th now. But that was obviously the first one. It was advertised as a sold out night, although then during the day they actually had signs up that tickets were still on sale. So I don't know how sold out it was.
Well, let's put it this way. I canceled my trip for October. So are other people canceling their own trips? So
that's possible. Yeah. I did hear Disney was being pretty good about refunding things, even though it says no refunds normally. But if people are saying, look, due to COVID numbers or whatever, I don't feel comfortable, Disney was refunding things. So that's possible. Some reviews have come out. Obviously, there was the first night, so people are kind of wondering what it would be. I think for the most part, it's kind of what people are expecting. I'll send out some links to, Blog Mickey had one. Disney Tourist Blog, I think, had some good takes on it, and basically saying like it's not a Halloween party. It's an after-hours event that has some Halloween entertainment. And if you use the time to go on a bunch of rides, it could be really good, and if get a little bit of Halloween, great. But if you're there for if you're going in thinking it's going to be like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, you're going to be disappointed if that's what you go in for. So I think kind of what we were expecting. It was good to see that the crowds were really low. It seemed like people were like pretty much walk on for all the rides. Maybe Mine Train had like a 20-minute line. I think they said the longest lines I saw were for some of the special photo pass spots. But overall, it seemed to be delivered what it said it would be, just not more than what was expected from an entertainment standpoint.
Kristy, have you ever done a Halloween party at Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, we've done a few Halloween parties, and it was one of our favorite things to do when we travel that time. And I don't know that I could justify the price for the after hours, and especially, it's. And I guess if you look at it just as an after hours event and not as a Halloween party, but even the after hour events when they had those pre-pandemic was just kind of out of our price range anyway. So I don't know that the Halloween stuff would draw us in. It does seem fun, but we really did enjoy the parties. I think hopefully they'll still bring those back at some point, but probably not. If people are willing to pay the higher prices for these, why go back?
Yeah, no, I mean, the best part of the parties was the parade that they did. We did one in 2015, haven't done it since. But if you're not doing that, it's, you can go on a normal day and see all the pumpkins and stuff like that, and the decoration. So as a normal guest, you do get to see that. So I don't know, family of five here, 100 or was it $130 average from here to, obviously gets.
I think that was the starting price, and then it goes up in October with Halloween being $199. So.
And it doesn't have fireworks, correct? I mean, I know the parties.
You can get in early and see like the regular fireworks, and now you can get in early and see Happily Ever After, but there's no special Halloween fireworks. Yeah.
I'm not spending $600 ish plus for my family to get in for. If it was my wife and I were doing it, or, me and somehow I managed to get only one child down to Florida without angering the rest of the family, maybe. But like for two people, sure. Family of five, I don't make that kind of money.
No.
And then again, even if I did, I don't know if I want to drop that much money on, on something like that.
So if you don't want to spend $600 on that, would you like to spend $1,000 on the Christmas party? As Disney's very merriest after party details were announced, and obviously this is another after hours party. However, there are some differences compared to Boo Bash. The two biggest things being that it's an hour longer, so you'll have 4 hours of the park with the low crowds versus 3. And they are having special fireworks at the show. So if you go, and you can still get in early, so you can actually see 2 firework shows in one night if you have with just your party ticket. Obviously, a lot of other things with the snacks and the characters out and stuff like that. But I think the big thing is really the low crowds, the snow on Main Street, I guess, and then the unique fireworks. So just to give an idea for price ranges, the cheapest nights for this start at $169.
Do we? I was going to say, do we really need to talk about money? I mean, this is going to be a theme for, I think, our podcast and almost any other one is pricing, because we're going to get a whirlwind of pricing things. We're going to get Fast Pass stuff. We're going to get Genie add-on. I mean, it's just going to be there's somebody's going to have to do like a nickel and dime meme with Mickey Mouse taking nickels and dimes out of little children's pockets or something. I don't know what it is, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead with the price.
And it goes all the way up to the last 2, which aren't even actually on Christmas. The last 2 are the December 19th and 21st are $249 a person plus tax.
You got to pay for those fireworks, man.
I guess so. So, and the one thing is, I'm actually thinking about going to this one. I'm going to be going down for Destination D23, if you remember. And
it's just you then.
It's just me, and I wasn't planning on getting park tickets at all. So it wasn't like I was going to have the park. So they have this on my arrival day. I could just use the one ticket, get in, see 2 fireworks shows, ride a bunch of rides. Like, I think there it's a little easier to justify it versus, like we said, $1,000.
I mean, I can justify $250 to get into the park and have a good night and just hit up everything but that's just if I only have to buy one ticket, right?
And it's actually one of the cheaper nights when I would go, so it'd be $169, which still, I mean, it's not insignificant, but I think it's at least my Disney math in my head makes it worthwhile.
Kristy, would you spend the $250 if it was just you down there?
I think probably if it was just me, I don't know if I could do the 250, but probably one of the cheaper nights. I think 250 is just kind of insane if you think about it's
a bit much.
It's I mean, just for access to the rides. I mean, that's really and honestly what you're getting in an after hours event is the short line that I'd probably rather just battle it out during the day and take my chances with the lines. 250 is pretty steep.
I mean, the only thing I would, the access and whatever by myself. So if I'm by myself, I'm not creating memories with my family at this point, other than maybe the arguments of like, why are you down in Disney World without me type of thing. But it would be seeing 2 fireworks shows in one day. I think that's the one thing that would
pretty interesting. I mean, that's not something that I don't think we've ever been able to have that experience before, outside of these Christmas after hours. I can't think of a time that they've had 2 fireworks shows, except maybe, I guess, I don't even know if they do that on like New Year's Eve. Like it's usually just the one at midnight, right? I mean, I don't think they've had 2.
I've never heard of it. So
yeah, that'd be pretty unique.
Yep. So we'll see.
We'll live through Phil.
Yeah, actually. But I mean, it's interesting. You see a lot of comments. I was looking through various social media, groups and comments and things like that, and a lot of people are like, it's insane, this is ridiculous, Chapek stealing money from kids and stuff like that. But other people are like,
memes are coming, Phil, they're coming.
Look, we didn't do vacation last year, we got kind of money to burn, and it's Christmas and we're going all out, and I know it's stupid and I shouldn't do it, but I'm gonna do it, like that type of thing. So with these after hour events, they don't need to sell 50,000 tickets a night. They just so we'll see how it does. Hopefully they figure something out for next year, because I know, these are late too. This one goes to 1 in the morning. A lot of families with little kids can't really do that and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe next year they'll do like a blend. Some nights do kind of the more traditional parties, and some nights do after hours. We shall see. The next news item is that we talked in the last couple of weeks about previews for Remy's Ratatouille adventure. Well, another one was announced. D23 members have an opportunity on 2 days in September to get special access to the ride, but also similar to what they were doing for the Jungle Cruise out in California. You'd get there's like a whole I guess a panel with the Imagineers that worked on it. There's like a breakfast included. You get to sample the food from the new creperie that's going to be opening and stuff like that. So it's not just the ride. It was $75. I believe it's all sold out. So this is a little late breaking news. But it's just another one where I feel like by the time the ride actually opens, so many people are going to have ridden it, not to mention the people that have already ridden it, in Paris. Hopefully it reduces some of the demand, on October 1st, October 2nd, when people will be down there for the 50th, but we shall see.
More money to spend at Disney, and they managed to get it. But like you said, I think the point is the people that are going to be there to see it, so they're going to be already have seen it, and they might not be crowding in the first week or so.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
that'll be nice. That was a good point.
Speaking of the 50th, and this probably be more interesting for people to listen to this versus hear me talk about it, but Disney released some new music or information about music that's coming out related to the 50th. So they've announced that the official anthem is going to be called "The Magic Is Calling," and it'll be featured during a new cavalcade that they're going to have in the parks, which obviously everyone's jumping on, like, okay, new cavalcade means no parade. But a special cavalcade, but they'll also be using like various versions of it in the different parks, and like Voices of Liberty will have a version and things like that. So it's going to be sort of the official theme song of the 50th anniversary. And from what I heard, it sounded pretty good. Very reminded me of Happily Ever After with all the orchestration, but still kind of a pop feel at the same time. So I thought it was pretty good.
They always do good with their music. That's for sure.
And speaking of music, they also shared a sneak peek of the music that'll be in Harmonius. I thought it sounded really cool. It had all these different music acts from around the world, kind of doing more authentic versions, I guess, of some of the songs from popular movies. And just the way that the artists were sort of talking about it, somebody described it as sort of the melting pot of art and stuff like that. So I think it sort of fits with the theme of Epcot, especially World Showcase. So I'm looking forward to this show.
Okay, well, Chris, are you looking forward to Harmonious? Do you like the barges?
I haven't. I've never been like a nighttime at Epcot kind of person, but I think this is something I would definitely want to check out. Like Illuminations, I could, take it or leave it. When we would go, we were more of a like Magic Kingdom
Easy
fireworks.
fill.
But
I know.
I know. I'm
Don't
sorry.
get angry.
But it is cool that they have something new coming, so it will be interesting to
absolutely.
see. Yeah, and I didn't get to see the one they had in between the Epcot Forever, so it'll be nice to see what they originally planned, I guess, to be the follow up to Illuminations. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when I finally see it in February. But I'm not going to be the spoiler. I'm going to spoil myself. I'm not going to wait.
Yeah, it'd probably be a while before we get back to Disney, so we'll probably end up watching it too. Hopefully they'll do one of those. I mean, I don't know if they can, I guess, with the COVID restrictions, but we like watching the live streams, like when they premiere like Happily Ever After, and when they do the 4th of July fireworks and stuff. We like watching those as a family. So that would be cool if they were able to do that when it premieres.
I'm sure they're going to do plenty of streams for the new Magic Kingdom and 50th, and then Epcot. They're going to. Well, if Disney doesn't do it, there's going to be plenty of people streaming it. Hopefully, you can find somebody with a good internet
That's true.
connection.
Yeah. And if you don't see it the day of, I'm sure the people that are recording in 4K and stuff like that, you'll get to see it the next day or whatever. So, and the last news is another news item for Epcot, but that it was announced that Space 220 will be opening. It said mid-September, so we don't have an exact date, and we also don't have a full menu, and we don't have pricing or anything, but at least we know it will be opening mid-September. And not surprising, they say it's going to be a pre-fixe structure to the meal, with lunch being a 2-course pre-fixe and dinner being a 3-course pre-fixe, which I'm sure they wanted to sort of prevent what happened with like Be Our Guest, where people would make reservations just to see the place and then just order a cupcake or something like that. So,
I mean, with the visuals we're expecting with that, you got to get in and get out, and this is the food you're going to get. And that's it, right? I bet you they're going to try to limit guests to like 50 to maybe 80 minutes at the top end for the most part, in and out. Which is going to be unfortunate because it's probably going to be a really cool experience. Phil, what do you think is going to be the cost on a scale from, I don't even know what to make the scale. I was going to say Be Our Guest to Cinderella's Royal Table, but that's a very close band anyway. Yeah. Are we thinking probably like in the $70 to $80 range?
I was thinking, like 65 to 70 for dinner. I like that the lunch will be only 2 courses, so it'll be a slightly cheaper way to get in. Maybe that's $45 or something like that. Still not cheap, but at least a little bit of a cheaper option for people to be able to get in and still check out the space. So what they showed looked really cool. So
yeah, is this something your family would take advantage of when you go down?
Probably. So I guess depends on, what the menu looks like, and the pricing would be a big factor because my kids are pretty picky. So,
Yep.
it would have to be stuff that they'd be willing to eat.
So it's more based on the food than the experience that you're like. Our family likes to eat, right? We like the dining experience, and so we chase these type of things as long as it's like you're not spending $120 a person type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be reasonable, get a good meal and the experience. This is something I was trying to book for my March of 2020 trip that got canceled because it was rumored to be coming out right around that time, and then of course I was hoping it would be out for October. Or my now canceled October trip. So it looks like it'll be up and ready and all the bugs will be worked out by the time February rolls around, which is good.
And that'll do it for the news. A reminder of our social media accounts: Twitter @PodDBC, Instagram, the DBC Podcast, Facebook, DBC Pod, the YouTube channel, and our Discord server.
So I'm surprised that you didn't go. We had some other extra stuff that you listed on here. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up, I thought we wanted to bring up was the announcement with Splash. That's just we don't know when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, there was an I guess an executive or somebody that's working on the project at Disney talked about it, just to say I think that it's still coming for the Magic. Some people are kind of wondering if they might just drop it, at least in Florida, but it said it's still coming. But the term they used was it's going to take some time. So you don't need to book those trips right now to ride to, Splash Mountain for the last time. It'll be a little bit, but it does sound like it's still in the works.
Which is good. I kind of like the idea. I mean, I know where everybody loves the song and the characters and all this other stuff, and it's gotten to the point where a lot of them don't even associate it with the movies, and because it's been multiple generations since all of that. But we've had this conversation before, so you can get down there and you can see it, and then that's it. But I'm always looking forward to the new. I always love the new stuff that Disney comes out. So I'm looking for an interesting experience because that ride has one of the longest. I guess longest dark ride or was it largest real estate? Is it Phil? Square footage for a ride like that? And
the show building is quite large, and it is a fairly long ride too. It's not a 2-minute roller coaster or something.
Yeah, it's close pushing 20 minutes. So
yeah, and I can't wait to see. Hopefully, they have the time and the funding to really revitalize the whole thing because I'd be interested to see what they would do with that space.
Yeah.
After so many years since they originally put that in. Okay, so. This week, we're going to hit up our Attractionality, and I'm surprised you picked this one. You picked Turtle Talk with Crush. Now, as Disney likes to explain, I'm going to look to my other monitor, Phil, so my head might go out over here as the YouTube watchers you like to yell at me about on Discord. It says, gather around a window of the ocean for a conversation in real time with your favorite totally tubular sea turtle. Got a bummy question for Crush during this live 15-minute chat. You may get to ask it. Take a seat at Turtle Crush Theater and watch as the turtle from Disney Pixar's Finding Nemo swims up close through amazing technology of hydrophone. He can communicate directly with land-based dudes and dudettes about almost anything that's on their mind. So, Kristy, what we do every week is we do a game called Attractionality. On the Discord server, we rate questions 1 through 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Question number 1, Kristy, is how much do you like the concept of this attraction? Would you rank this 1 or 5?
I'd probably say a 4. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it is pretty interesting, and it keeps the kids really engaged. So it's pretty cool that they can talk to a character from a movie and ask questions.
You voted with most other people. The big ding was on number 4. Phil, what did you rank this one at?
I gave it a 5, but it was really, I think, similar sentiments that Kristy had. Was I just think the technology is really cool, and just especially for kids, the concept of like literally getting to talk to a cartoon and have them talk back to you, I think is just really neat. So the concept of that experience, I think is really well done and is a good idea.
I'm going to caveat all my answers with is I've never sat through the whole thing. It was always full or when we've gone by there. So we kind of like jumped in, peeked in, see what it was like. And then kind of our kids either crying or we have to get out or anything else like that. So it's been rough for me. I ranked it a 3. I think it's a cool concept, but I think it'd be better if it was incorporated with some other stuff, right? Because I could see that I you know me, Phil. I always go for like, but if you only did this much more, right? So I like the concept. It's nice. It's kind of like tucked in there, and that type of thing. But I give it 3. Question number 2, Phil. We'll start with you this time. How well do you think Turtle Talk delivers for its target audience? What did you rank this
I give
at?
this one also a 5, but in my mind, I'm thinking the target audience is the kids that are sitting up front and talking to them. So if we're calling that specific group the target audience, I think it absolutely delivers for them. If we're talking kind of the whole family, it would probably be more like a 3 or something like that, because I think it's not it's fun for the parents to see the kids interact and stuff like that, but like if I was like a solo traveler, I don't think I would get as much out of it or that sort of thing.
You ranked it as a 5. Everybody else almost ranked it as a 5. Kristy, what would you put this at? Number 5 also?
I would kind of say the same thing. 5 if you're talking more towards the kids who are more interactive with Crush. It's fun for me as a mom. I would rank it higher for the family if, my kids are participating. But if my kids are maybe older and not interested in it and it's not as fun to watch everybody else's kids interact, I would probably rank it a little lower. But when you have little ones, it's definitely more closer to a 5.
I give this one a 3 because I'm on the flip side of what Phil said. It's yes, it's attraction the kids really like, but also it's for the whole family. And I could see if you've got shy children or children that are not really into it, or the experience, I should say, it could get a little dull. So I gave it a 3. And then the next question is, how much do you personally enjoy Turtle Talk Crush? I've never sat through the whole thing. Again, I'm biased, so I did not vote on this one. Kristy, how much do you personally enjoy?
I guess me personally, I'd probably put it at a 3. I think between the 2 similar attractions that are interactive, I would enjoy like Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor more than Turtle Talk. Okay. So I would put that one a little bit lower.
How about you, Phil?
I also gave it a 3. I think for similar reasons, and just it's just not a must do for us. Like, it's really neat to do once or twice, but it's not something we have to do every trip. And I don't know. I think like I said, for the kids, especially, like if your kid's the one asking the question, it's great. If not, it's not as great. So I mean, it's a good attraction, but kind of what you mentioned too before, Jason. I think they could do more with it.
Yep. So question number 4, how well do you think Turtle Talk Crush fits into the seas with Nemo and Friends Pavilion, in Future World, and in Epcot? I personally gave this a 4 because it fits in the whole thing. It's, if we're going to ignore all the other questions, yes, if we're going to do something like this, it definitely belongs on here. I think everybody else ranked it a 5. I gave it a 4, and a couple of people gave it a 3, which would be interesting to talk to those people. Phil, did you rank this not a 5?
I give it a 4 as well. I mean, I think it fits quite well. They talk about, the oceans and marine biology and stuff like that. So I think it fits. I don't know if it's just the idea still of IP in Epcot or whatever like that. I don't know. Like, I think it fits fine, but I don't know if it's the best thing ever. So, so I give it a 4. I think it fits well, but not like the best fit ever.
What about you, Kristy?
Yeah, I'd probably say a 4 as well. I mean, it fits with the whole of obviously, ocean theme, but I mean, I don't know where else they could put it. So, I would rank it on the higher side for that.
I mean, they could use the same technology and just put Figment in there and put another building, right? So that might fit somewhere else. I don't think I dislike the whole Seas Pavilion to begin with. Not a fan of that aquarium. Not a fan of Nemo and Friends and all this other stuff. So, I mean, if they were to completely revitalize that whole thing, I would give that more of a thumbs up. But the place looked kind of, I don't want to say run down because it was very well taken care of, but it's very, very aged.
Showing its age.
And a lot of this stuff, right?
Yep.
So, all right, that was this week's Attractionality. Do we have a follow-up question? We do. I think I already answered this one, Phil, because I forgot to scroll down, look at our follow-up question. You made it up this week. Is how else would you like to see this interactive technology used? I said Figment. Hopefully I stole your answer, Phil. So you have to think
I had several ideas. I mean, I think the first 2 that kind of came to mind were if somehow it could be done tied in with either Marvel or Star Wars, like some way that kids and adults could like interact with, some of their favorite characters and superheroes and stuff like that, even if it was like Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian and stuff like that, or some way to like bring you more into those worlds. Cause sometimes they can seem so like, kind of super and out there that you're kind of not in it. If there was that way to interact with them, I think that could be a neat way.
What about you, Kristy?
I don't know. Y'all came up with some good ones. I'm not very imaginative about stuff like that. So the Figment one, I would actually really like. I'm sure a lot of people would would balk at that idea, but I don't mind Figment. I think he's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they use this technology, perfected it, and we're able to put it in smaller areas and put this all over the parks,
Yeah.
I think it would be great, because the more interactive, the better, and the more fun that you can have not waiting in a line, or maybe waiting in a line. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be interesting if they incorporated that into some
cool.
of the interactive lines. That'd be neat.
They're gonna need it after no one can afford to go to the fast pass.
Oh, that's it. They have the interaction, but only if you pay for the fast
Oh
pass.
no, Phil, no. Or you get to your point where you start interacting, you have to put quarters in it for it to start. Right?
No, for them to finish, they start
$1
for free.
per question.
Right, exactly. Put a quarter in to hear your response. Okay, that was a good. We had Country Bears Jamboree as another attraction.
I didn't think that one was done. I think we need to talk to Castastone to make sure he wraps them up like by Sunday morning, so we can get the new one in. It hadn't had the final scores yet. So.
I really wanted to do that one, so maybe we could do that one for next week. I have some opinions on it. It should be good. So this week's topic, Chris, we have a topic now that we have to talk to before we get to your expedition, and we're at the halfway mark on the show, Phil. So I think we're running pretty good. You found this topic. So why don't you set it up?
Sure. So I don't know how many people follow him on social media, but Robin Lopez, who's he has a twin brother, Brooke Lopez. They're playing the NBA, and they are both huge Disney fans. They're both in Club 33. They have a house in Golden Oaks, and they're constantly talking about Disney. I think they buy a ton of merch. I think he actually bought Buzzy's clothes that had gotten stolen and went up on eBay and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're huge Disney fans, and Robin is really active on Twitter and stuff. And he just like talks to people and responds to other Disney fans and stuff. And lately what he's been doing was asking people for things for him to rank. So he's been ranking various things, whether it's the different parks or different attractions, or I think he did like all the Fantasyland attractions. But the two I picked out here, I didn't know if people wanted to talk about. We could pick one or both, but he ranked all of the nighttime shows between Disneyland and Florida. And then another one where he ranked all the restaurants in Epcot. So I don't know if you feel strongly about one or the other.
I'm weak on both because I've never been to Disneyland, Phil. So I'll throw my opinion in there from what I know from my experiences and other people's experiences. So Phil, pick one. I have both ready to go for the screen so we can take a look.
So why don't we do the nighttime shows? I think people can talk to more of those. And he had I think one of them was a bit of a spicy take. So we'll see what people think of that.
I would agree.
Okay.
So the first thing, have it up on the screen, but his favorite one is the original version of Fantasmic at Disneyland. Then he has a big gap, so he thinks that one's far and away the best. Then he has the current version of Fantasmic at Disneyland. Then the Main Street Electrical Parade. Then Illuminations. Then Paint the Night. Then Wishes. Then a bit of a gap. Then he has Rivers of Light. Then Fantasmic at Hollywood Studios. So obviously he views that as a inferior version.
Interesting.
Then a gap. Then he has World of Color at Disneyland.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And then a big gap. And then he has, quote unquote, that placeholder Jungle Book show at Disney Animal Kingdom.
Wow.
And by the way,
is he not a fan of Happily Ever After?
So I actually asked him about that. He said he didn't want to have like all the different fireworks shows, so he just picked his favorite from Magic Kingdom. So at least we know Happily Ever After would be ranked below Wishes for him, but that's why he didn't put everything in there.
Chrissy, I told a story a couple of weeks ago. I forget what we were talking about. It was probably our fireworks show when they came back. Mm-hmm. I saw the fireworks show at Magic Kingdom in 2015. It was my first time back as an adult. And then when I went back in 2017, seeing Happily Ever After, I could have sworn I saw Happily Ever After in 2015, which obviously was not a thing. So that's how much none of those shows kind of stuck in my head. I don't get it. So Wishes, that's the hot take part for me. What stood out to you, Kristy, on this list?
Oh, World of Color. That is a fantastic show. I couldn't believe that it was ranked that low. Now, I don't know potentially the difference between the two Disneyland versions of Fantasmic. I've only seen one, and I don't know which one I saw. I went for the one of the anniversary years, so that could make a difference. But World of Color being that low, and especially below Rivers of Light, I mean, give me a break. So, yeah, no, that one bugged me because that's a really great show.
What about you, Phil?
So that one surprised me because I think it is a good show. I don't have it. I wouldn't have it as ranked as high as a lot of people would, just because I hate the viewing area and how you have to get in and out. Like, it just takes away from the whole experience for me.
That's
but
fair.
The show itself is quite good and quite impressive and way better kind of, fountain projection technology than I've seen at Walt Disney World. I think the other thing, obviously I would have Illuminations higher, and I also would have Paint the Night. That's like my favorite parade, daytime, nighttime, whatever that I've ever seen. So that would be much, much higher for myself as well.
I would agree, only because I've seen it like in video form, right? So I've never actually seen it in person. So anything that has a nighttime parade is like A+ in my book. That's why the Halloween party parade is always like sticks up to me, because I do not like any of the parades at Walt Disney World during the day, because apparently I only go when it's 200 degrees outside. So you can't actually enjoy something while you're physically melting and your children are melting around you. And Phil, you have that awesome story about cast member shading your family as well, which is great. So, I mean, I love the parks at night, and I just don't like how there's nothing to do at night other than whatever park you're at, the nighttime stuff, and it's like always uber crowded and you can't really enjoy it type of thing. So I would like to see all those that nighttime. I would rank that nighttime show higher. Obviously, Happily Ever After is my favorite, so that would be up there. The fact that Wishes is there in its place, it's just like, I just don't get it. So it is what it is. Is there anything on here that you would add, Kristy, that's not on there?
I can't think of any I would add, because the only one I can think of, I guess that would be regular nighttime entertainment, would have been like Spectre Magic. And that was pretty good, but I wouldn't put that above like the Main Street Electrical Parade. So the only other thing would maybe be specialty stuff. Like you said, the Halloween parade, the Halloween fireworks are pretty high up there for me. But I guess if we're just talking, regular nighttime stuff, I I probably would keep Wishes over Happily Ever After as well. I do agree with him on that one. Okay. I had a soft, I think it's just because I've seen Wishes more, so I have more of that nostalgia feel for it. But Happily Ever After is great, but I do have a soft spot for Wishes.
Phil, do you want to go to the next question on the restaurants?
Yes. So he ranked all the restaurants around World Showplace or World Showcase in Epcot. And so again, top to bottom with a couple spots he had gaps. And there's probably one in here that I know at least some listeners would disagree with, that he had ranked it as low as he did, but we shall see. So his first one, which he has far and away above everything else, is Tecumate, which I haven't been able to do yet. The next group after that, he has a restaurant, Marrakesh, Tappan Edo.
That surprises me,
and Tokyo Dining. San Angel Inn, I'm surprised he has that as high as he does, and Beer Garden. Then he has Rose and Crown.
Sorry, it was the atmosphere he took into consideration as well, besides the food. And so I think that's probably where San Angel got kind of up there a little bit.
Yeah. In another comment, he said he forgot about Monsieur Paul, but he said he would have that above Beer Garden. Next group is Rose and Crown, Chefs de France, Hacienda de Saint Angel, Bistro de Paris, Les Celaires, Nine Dragons, Tutto Gusto, and then a gap, and he has Bringing Up the Rear, Via Napoli, and Restaurant Akashish. And the one that surprised me was, not that I disagree with him, because I think it's a little overrated, but I know a lot of people really like Via Napoli. So I was a little surprised that was the one I think a lot of people jumped on. But.
Mm-hmm.
I would never eat Italian food in Florida anyway. So, I mean, I've never eaten there. I've been in the restaurant. I've seen the stuff that's come out of the kitchen. None of it impresses me by any man. I'm not saying it's bad. I've never eaten there, so I can't. But it just is like, I'm from New Jersey, and Phil, you're from New York. Yeah. We have some access to some good Italian food, and I'm never looking to get Italian food in Florida. So I don't disagree with that one. What does surprised me a little bit was the bistro is up there over a couple of other things. And I personally like that place, and that place is good. So I'm surprised that it mirrors out of all the other really nice restaurants you have that hang in there. That's anything that stood out to you, Kristy, also on the whole list?
Well, we're Via Napoli fans, so that kind of bummed me out. But I do know that people, that it's not the most exotic thing that you can get in World Showcase, but we're not exotic eaters. But I do understand the sentiment because I would not get New Orleans food anywhere else. So I completely understand. I wouldn't go to it. I would not get New Orleans food in Florida either. So I can understand.
Now, the other thing that I kind of laugh at was Akershus is at the bottom of the list. I only would rank that higher because my little girls love that restaurant for obvious reasons. Yeah. And I was going in as, this is the poor man's version of Cinderella's Royal Table, essentially. And I like the food more than Cinderella's Royal Table. And the experience to me was a bit better. I like the buffet that they have there, or like the appetizer buffet, whatever you want to call it. And then with the way the meals were coming out, the food was not that bad. I was expecting okay food. But I think is it an appetizer bar? I forget what they actually call it. It's like a cold buffet. I think they have, which is what you do for your appetizer. It's called something, but I don't remember what it is. Kristy, have you ever eaten there?
We have not eaten there. No, really, with only 2 places that we've eaten on that list. I guess the only other one would be Beer Garden, which does have really nice atmosphere. And I was surprised at the food, especially, when we ate there, it was still a buffet. And even for being a buffet, it was really good. Sometimes those can be hit or miss.
The one thing that's on there that I've seen a lot of people rave about, and he even apologized it for there, is Le Cellier. That's kind of down there. I always thought that was one of the more, famous or more popular restaurants around World Showcase. Anything else stand out to you, Phil, that is either left out or ranked incorrectly?
Not that it's ranked incorrectly, but it's good to see that he has Takumite ranked so high. I have some friends who've been fortunate enough to eat there, and they rave about it. So
I've heard good things.
His opinion definitely coincides with pretty much every other take I've seen. So someday, I don't know if it's when you bring the kids to, it's like a 8-course or 12-course tasting menu type thing. So, and it's not inexpensive. So, but if we ever do another like parents only trip, I think we might try to get in there.
We just came back. My wife and I just had a kind of like a 3-day getaway down in North Carolina, and we had it was at a really like a bed and breakfast kind of resort to do a lot of weddings at, but it's I guess off season right now, whatever it might be for them. So it's not very busy. We got some good rates, and they have an amazingly good restaurant. And we did a 12-course meal with a wine pairing there. And I know the price of that. I'm not going to bring up what that actually was. And I could expect it down at Disney World. It's a little bit more expensive than what we had. And we paid a pretty penny for it. It was absolutely delicious. But I don't see myself ever doing that unless my wife and I are now retired and going down, reliving our fond memories of when our children were what they are right now and below, under the age of 10. The other thing I wanted to bring up with this is Marrakesh is rated really high. And I always thought we had a reservation for that last time we went down. We ended up canceling because we were getting rained out. It was not very good weather. We had like a 6:30 reservation or something, and it was like 4:00, and we just kind of went back to the resort at that point. But I've always heard good things about it, but I've never heard anybody rave about it. Phil, have you ever eaten there before?
So we only ate there once, and we did it as it was a lunch pairing during Food and Wine that we ate there. So we enjoyed it quite a bit, but I don't know if you can properly judge a restaurant from like a specialty meal like that. Right. We do like Spice Road Table. We eat there quite often. And so I think that's kind of along the lines. I think it's owned by the same group, well, although I guess now it's all owned by Disney. But we enjoy that. So I think, we like that type of food. So I would definitely go there again, but we've only had that one meal there.
So Kristy has been nicely sitting here, chiming in and participating in our conversation, but we actually brought her in to do a trip report. So this is this week's DVC Expedition. Next week, we're probably going to get back on the bandwagon of doing more of a historical or kind of outlook of type of things. Yep. We think we have a topic picked out. I've got a busy week at work, so I don't think I need to look for another idea because it's a very fine one that Phil came up with. And I think we have enough information that we can do this multi-week type of thing. So maybe one of those things. But here I am going on about next week, and we have Kristy sitting here like, I don't know what a DBC expedition is, but thanks for having me on. So you just got back from Universal Orlando when you have a trip report. So tell us a little bit before we go into how much fun you had. What is your family profile, I guess, right? And how often do you get down over there to Orlando to do fun things?
So it's me and my husband. Our son is 10, almost 11. And then my daughter actually turned 6 on the trip that we were on last week. And we try to go to the parks, whether Disney or Universal or a combination, at least once a year, but it's kind of gotten stretched out a little bit now that we've kind of gotten into the Disney Cruise Line thing. And those are quite a bit, quite expensive. So sometimes we have to skip a parks trip to make the cruise happen. So this just kind of came up because the kids had a week that their camp was finished and school hadn't started, and we had some Southwest credits and we hadn't been in a while. So that's where we ended up for our kind of like end of the summer blowout trip.
Is it the Disney Universal trips are more common, or is it more common to go to one or the other?
I feel like the last few years it's been one or the other. In the beginning, we would always do maybe 5 or 6 days Disney and 1 to 2 days at Universal. And it kind of got to a point where we're like, we're going for this 1 or 2 days off of a bigger trip to Disney, and we just don't get to experience everything. We hit the rides, but we don't stop to do the shows. We don't eat at the restaurants. So it was probably in 2017 was the first time we decided to take just a Universal trip. And so we've done that. I think this was the 5th one that we've done. My son's kind of in that age bracket where he really enjoys the Universal stuff a little bit more than Disney. So we did a few with just him when my daughter was really little and couldn't ride anything. But now even she's taller, she's more into it. So even she really enjoys that just as much as going to Disney.
And did that motivate you to do Universal this time?
So what actually, we gave the kids the choice. So my son just flat out said Universal, and my daughter said, I don't know where any of this stuff is, but I'm going to tell you my favorite rides, and you tell me where that is. So she said Minions, Gringotts, and Slinky Dog. So I said, so I guess we're going to Universal. So that kind of decided it.
That's a smart way to do it. That was a good idea for your daughter. Like, here's what I want to do. You make it happen.
Yeah. She was like, I don't remember any of the parks that these are in, but these are the things I like to do. So.
All right, awesome. Now, did you stay on property? Did you do VRBO? How did you plan it?
We stayed at Royal Pacific this time. We try to stay on site if the price is right, but we have done a couple of off-site trips, staying on vacation points. So it just kind of depends. If it's the trip we're planning on going, then we'll usually stay on site. If it ends up like a bonus trip because we're just wanting to use our annual pass, we might stay off-site.
Okay. So what made you pick this particular hotel this time?
We like to stay at one of the 3 premier resorts because you get the unlimited express pass included.
That's where I was going with this. Okay, good.
Yeah, and so Royal Pacific tends to be the cheapest. We have gotten Hard Rock for not too much more than Royal Pacific, so we've done that a couple of times. And one time we got a really great annual pass rate at Portofino, so that was nice. But Royal Pacific is usually the one where we end up, just based on the price.
Where are you booked at, Phil?
So I'm booked at Portofino Bay. We kind of looked at we did the same thing. If we're like, well, if we're going to do Universal, we're going to stay at one of the nicer ones because they're not crazy expensive. They're not like Disney deluxe prices. And I was, because we want to get the express pass. And then we kind of priced out the whole thing. And knowing that it's going to be, the 5 of us in a room, the rooms at Portofino Bay were significantly larger. So we thought it was worth the, couple $100 for our stay extra to have like another 100 square feet or whatever it was. So, but otherwise we probably would have done Royal Pacific just because it was the cheapest of the 3 options.
It is the cheapest, but definitely the smallest when it comes to room size. And we were feeling it. That was the first time I think the 4 of us had stayed in a hotel room that small because we're DVC and we have Wyndham points. So we're typically staying in something with a closed off bedroom. So, 4 of us in a room was a little tight for a week, but you made the right choice with Portofino because those rooms are definitely larger.
Yeah.
So give us the rundown of the spreadsheet version of your vacation. How many days? What parks did you go to? And then we'll kind of dive deeper on the details.
We did not do Volcano Bay. So we just did the two theme parks, Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. We had gotten a promo ticket that Undercover Tourist had. It was I think it was a buy two, get 2 days free. So we did that. And then we actually ended up upgrading to the seasonal annual pass. So we ended up going for most of our last day before we caught our flight. So it was 4 full days and then maybe like 3/4 of a day on our departure day. So we had quite a bit of time in the parks. And we really didn't spend a whole lot of time at the hotel. I thought we might swim a little more, but we were just having so much fun in the parks that we didn't really want to leave to go swimming. So we were there pretty much we would do early park opening. Some days we would take a break back in the room during the hottest part of the day, and then we'd go back for the evening.
How is it getting to the parks and back? Like that's one of the things that when I do my planning for Disney, it's like, I mean, my wife's like, why don't we go back and swim in the pool? I'm like, well, okay, well, it's going to take us an hour to an hour and a half to get back to the room and get changed, and then an hour at the pool, and then an hour and a half back. You know, it's all this nonsense. It's like 6 hours out of your day just to go swimming for like an hour and a half. What is it like on the Universal side?
So for Royal Pacific specifically, there is a walking path that'll get you out to the City Walk entrance nearest to Islands of Adventure. And I would say it's maybe a 10 or 15 minute walk, I guess, depending on the makeup of your group. But there's also a water taxi that'll take you from all 3 resorts. So we've done both. We've walked and we've taken the water taxi, which they run pretty quickly. So, I mean, even if you miss one, it's no more than 10 minutes before the next one's coming to load everybody up. And they weren't distancing on the ferry because it's open. So they had full ferries going back and forth. So it did not take long to get back and forth to the parks for a break. Or, you know, one day I had to go return our rental stroller. And I think like total to get all the way there, walking and then taking the ferry back, it took me like 35 minutes, 40 minutes.
Well, that's pretty
to
good.
Do all of that. Yeah.
So that's one of the things in my upcoming Disney trip. We have, my father's going to be in a scooter. So we're planning coming back to the resorts on our Epcot and Hollywood Studios days. Cause we're on the Skyliner. We're going to be staying at Caribbean Beach. So
easy transport.
Yeah. I like that on the Universal size. It's a lot, I guess, neater. Disney does a good job
compact.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Disney does a good job getting you there. It just might take a while.
Right.
You guys are kind of fitting through. So, has this been your longest Universal only trip that you've taken?
No, I would say this is probably the length of time for all of our Universal trips, with maybe the exception of one that was a little bit shorter. This is probably about how long we spend.
So when people say that you could do Universal in 2 days, especially with the pass that you had, and you were obviously, you said 4 days, 4 days, like
4.5. So you absolutely can do everything at least once, but our family, we like the rewritability. So we enjoy doing things several times during a trip. I can see that if you're not a person that would enjoy writing the same things over and over again, you probably would get bored, by the third end of the third day, you'd be like, okay, I've seen everything. But like I said, too, with the time, you can make sure you see the shows. Like the Bourne Stuntacular show was new for us. So we made time to see that. We made a couple of dining reservations for longer sit down meals, which we wouldn't normally do if we were only going to be there for a day or two. So we just like not having to cram it all in, I guess. We can take our time. We can reride the things we really like. Velocicoaster was new. So, having several mornings to get a chance to get right over and ride that. Same with Hagrid's. Wasn't new, but last time we only got to ride it once. So it was nice to get to do that a few times this time. So we don't mind redoing.
Well, that was my question. Since you're redoing, you kind of do the parks like I do. How many hours of the day were you usually at a park then?
So early hours started at 8 every morning. We'd be there till about 1, so 5 hours. And then we'd go back maybe around 4. So 4 hours in the evening. So probably like 9 to 10 hours every day we were there. Time. Yeah. So, and we could sit and take a break. If the kids were kind of getting run down, we could just sit down and get a snack. They were promoting the Olympics, so they would have the Olympics playing on the big screens, and you could just sit on the grass and have a snack and watch for a little while, or just wander through the shops. That's cool. we didn't have to jump from ride to ride. Whereas with Disney, as much as we love Disney, the thing is our kids get off of something and they're like, can we go again? And it's like, well, no, we can't, because the wait is 45 minutes or an hour. So, you can't just jump right back in line for stuff. But with that Express, you can, sure, if you want to ride it again, let's go. So
let's go. Get
they
it
like that.
So what were some of the highlights, I guess, whether it be a meal or a ride or a family interaction with something? What stood out to you that you're going to remember for the years to come?
So Velocicoaster was a big memorable thing for my husband and I. We were the only two that rode it. And that was amazing. I mean, that was a really incredible, my heart was thumping like the first time I was sitting there waiting for it to take off, because you just don't know what to expect on a brand new ride. And my son, he was terrified of Hagrid's after the last time we went, but he was brave enough to try it again this time, and he loved it. So he wanted to go multiple times. So that was really fun. And surprisingly, the thing I think we have talked about the most since we got home is my daughter loved the Jimmy Fallon ride. Absolutely, hands down, loved it, and was quoting it the entire time that we were walking around. So we did a lot of laughing over that one, because it was just kind of ridiculous that ended up being one of her favorite things. But she really she has no idea.
She's got to add that to her list, right? Okay, so
I guess so. Next time that'll be on the list, because she loved her some Jimmy Fallon. Has no idea who Jimmy Fallon is or any of his bits, but
okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like, does she know who Jimmy Fallon is?
Absolutely not. She just loved that ride for some reason. I guess because it's so over the top. But yeah, she liked that one.
So when you ask her in a year and list the rides you want to go, what drops from her top 3 at this point? I
think it might be Slinky Dog. I don't know, because she did really like. She really liked Gringotts and Hippogriff, Flight of the Hippogriff. She liked this time too, and Jimmy Fallon.
So one of the main things that a lot of people say is Universal's not for little kids, that sort of thing. And I think that Phil, you wrote this question down, and I think that's kind of changing over time as Universal's kind of either expanding or doing better marketing, I guess. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that kind of statement, Kristy? Obviously, because you have a youngish person and then an older kid, also preteens.
I would say the age does not matter as much as the height. Once they hit 40 inches, that opens up almost all of the attractions to them. There's very little that can be done at less than 40 inches. So for us, when my daughter turned 4, we went in December, and that was like the perfect starting point for her.
Okay.
She had made she was about 41 inches, so she could do almost everything. And she was upset about the stuff she couldn't do. She kept pointing to the Hulk and saying, I want to go, why can't I ride that? And she's definitely on the braver side. But then my older one, he loves Harry Potter, all things Harry Potter, all things Jurassic Park. So those kinds of things really appeal to him at this age as well. But I would say not to discount younger kids, because there is a lot that they would be interested in once they hit that, 40-inch height. I mean, they can do Minions, the Harry Potter stuff. Some of that is geared towards them as well. Some of the smaller roller coasters, some of the shows. She really liked the Ollivander's Swan show. And they still do the Animal Actors show. She liked that. And she even surprised me. She really loved Men in Black. She thought that was a lot of fun. She has no frame of reference for Men in Black either, but she enjoyed that one and kind of that competitive aspect. So I would say, as long as they're not fearful, and she definitely is not, once you hit that 40 inches, I mean, there's a lot that they can do, a lot more than people realize, I think.
That's good advice. Now, I have to ask, because we're in COVID times, and not mm-hmm. to dwell on low lights of your trip, but are any lessons learned or things that you would tell people to either avoid or do something differently?
I think they did I think they've done a really good job. I noticed that even in the like pre-show rooms and stuff, they were not packing people in. So you had room to kind of spread out a little bit if that made you more comfortable, because I would say most people were not wearing masks, even indoors there, just because it is not required. But they had plenty of hand sanitizer stations. I was impressed with that. They're like installed on the walls. So, I mean, they're permanent fixtures. And they made plenty of announcements. My kids were reciting it by the end about, we suggest you follow CDC guidelines. So I think they're doing a good job with it. There's not a whole lot that they do, especially right now, that kind of like packs people in. As far as entertainment goes, I mean, they did bring the parade back, but we didn't stay for the parade. So I can't speak on that one, but even the nighttime show, around the lagoon is all open. There's plenty of space to be around there and not feel like you have to be in one location to get a good view. So, there was a lot of spacing there. So I think Universal is knocking it out of the park with that.
Awesome. We're going to wrap it up here, but before we go on to our DPC recommends for the week, any final advice for people planning to go down to Universal if they've been a Disney only family for the last couple of years? Should they start off with a Universal only trip, or should they tack on first?
I would do the tack on first, definitely,
Okay.
Because you want to dip your toes in a little bit before you commit, I think, probably to a full trip. By this point, we know that we're Universal people almost as much as we are Disney people, so we're comfortable with committing that many days to that particular vacation. But it definitely would be something that if you're not sure, or if you're not a huge fan of a lot of their IP, you may want to just kind of try it out first and then maybe see about spending a few more days. Because I'm sure you'll find once you get there, if you enjoy it, you're going to say, man, I wish I had more time to do more things. So you're going to want those extra days to be able to take advantage of everything that they have to offer, not just the highlight rides, the e-ticket rides, those kinds of things. And not just Harry Potter, because I think a lot of people want to go just for the 2 Harry Potter lands. Yeah. And those are amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're big Harry Potter nerds in this family. I'm wearing my Hufflepuff shirt right now. But there is plenty outside of that people can enjoy if they give it the time. I think if you go in comparing it to Disney, you may be disappointed. You kind of have to take it as its own thing, because they don't do as many big flashy shows as Disney does, or, investing in their character locations and stuff like that. But they are really good at the things that they are good at, the high, fast roller coaster thrill rides and the 3D rides. They do a really great job.
So Kristy, we really appreciate it. Thanks for your trip report. Maybe we got Universal some extra tickets sold in the coming year. I don't know. You can send all royalties to the DVC podcast.
That'll be why the room prices are going to be too expensive.
Yes.
They're all going to shoot up.
And then just to wrap up the show, our DVC recommends for the week. Phil, this one is one that you found on Twitter. I'm staring at it right now. I'm about to put it on the screen. Why don't you tell the people what it is?
Yeah, this seemed like something right up our alley with all the details and doing research and stuff like that. But a Twitter account, it's at Theme Park Lore. They did an exercise to try to look at all the different castle parks, Disney castle parks around the world, and look at all the attractions that they have. And so where were there overlaps and where were there maybe unique attractions? And so they did a 6-way Venn diagram to sort of show like which parks have this, the Big Thunder Mountain is in these parks, and Gadget's Go Coaster is only in Tokyo Disneyland and Disneyland in California. So it was kind of interesting. I think what jumped out at a lot of people was that I think there's only 2 rides that are at all 6 parks. Dumbo,
I was going to bring that up. That's the first thing I looked for.
And the Royal Carousel are the only 2 attractions that are at all 6 parks. But and one thing to keep in mind, this is just it had to be in the castle park. So, for example, at Disneyland, they have their Star Wars stuff in Disneyland, whereas in Florida, it's at Hollywood Studios. So that one doesn't count. It's not in the castle park. So just that, those are the only 2 rides that are at all 6 castle parks around the world. And it's just kind of an impressive diagram, I guess.
It is. For those of you that are listening to the podcast version, not watching us on YouTube, I definitely would search out Phil's social media. It'll be in the show notes if you've got your podcast or iTunes out there. Before you leave us a 5-star review, click on the link and check it out.
Or leave the 5-star review first and then click on it.
First, yes, and then click on the link. The other thing is I thought that was kind of neat was that, outside of Shanghai Disneyland, It's a Small World and Mad Tea Party and the Riverboat were at all the castle attractions too. So that the Shanghai Disneyland that's the only thing that's missing from that. It's a really cool diagram. That being said, thank you everybody for listening. Kristy, thank you again for coming on. I enjoyed your participation and your story as well. I'm always looking to learn more about Universal because I've never been, and I've got 3 young kids, 8, 6, and 3 that waiting for the youngest one to get a little bit older to do some of the stuff.
She's close. Get her.
She's close.
A little bit
and she's
taller.
growing quickly, so she might hit that 40-inch mark before I know it.
There you go.
That being said, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Take care, all.
Thanks, everyone.